This is the final chapter in the story of the first females of the Barbados Cadet Corps. I'm Miles Eversley. Thanks for joining us. In the previous program, we benefited from the experiences of the ladies as they engaged in activities and training exercises that were central to the mission of the Cadet Corps as they sought to build model citizens and leaders for tomorrow. Well, we continue this series with the late Major Patrick Skeet as he reflected on those females who entered the Combermere School in 1973. We must make the point here that females had already attended this institution when these brave young ladies entered and requested permission to join the movement. Now, Major Skeet shared with us how these ladies paved the way for others to join the movement.
That first set of females were really trendsetters in every sense, and they actually worked very hard, and they actually went out into the society and made a really serious contribution. Every year after they were involved, more came in. So that we went to St. Vincent, there were at least about 6 cadets going. By the way, in 1974, there were 64 cadets going to Dominica for a camp for 2 weeks. The Dominicans were extremely shocked to see a female among the boys. So it was really a sensation within other Caribbean countries. Jamaica did not have cadets at that time, female cadets, neither did Trinidad. So Barbados is probably the first English-speaking Caribbean country that does cadetting that would have had females. And wherever they went in the Caribbean after that, there would have been a sort of hit in the sense that everybody was shocked to see, and they were pointing and saying, that's a girl. We had to enjoy that for a while, getting accustomed to the idea that it was not so normal to see females in the Corps.
Certainly we provided the opportunity by grasping the challenge of being the first cadets. We opened the door for subsequent females to become cadets in the Cadet Corps. And then of course, 2 years after we became cadets, they allowed females into the Defense Force. People like Prestine Sobers, who during her time was an excellent soldier. And we set a standard because too, Margot then became a Lance Corporal at her first overseas camp, and then we would only have been in the Corps for 2 years, well, really under 2 years. And so I thought that that was a great achievement on her part. I did my exams the summer of the trip to St. Vincent, but I left school immediately after that and went into university, so that was the end of that. But certainly we provided the opening in relation to the entry of females into the Cadet Corps in the Caribbean and into the Defense Force here in Barbados.
Yes, that door was certainly opened. Our history is repleted with fine examples of men and women who, through their good work, continue to inspire others. Angela Lashley speaks of those who inspired her along the way.
But there were a lot of young men who would have influenced me, and encouraged us, especially when you weren't getting things done correctly, perhaps. And, but they were very supportive. All of the persons who were in the cadets and who stood out in my mind were very almost shy persons, and they never seemed to be loud and aggressive and that kind of thing. And Patrick Skeet, we had Keith Squires. Keith Squires was responsible for training us. We had Bell, who is now a lawyer. Patrick Skeet. Patrick was at the time cadet under officer, so he was in charge of the Cadet Corps at Combermere when we went.
Major Skeet, if I can call him Patrick, he was a good friend. At school, he was the cadet under officer, so he would be the most senior cadet who would not have been attached to the regiment or anything like that, because I think Lieutenant Maynard, he would also have been working through the regiment and being the assigned commandant officer to the number 3 company. But Patrick would have been a student of Combermere who would have gone through the ranks of the cadets and was now the cadet under officer working closely with the commandant. And he was in my 6th form because he was in upper 6 while I was in lower 6. And so he was there all the way, encouraging us in his very quiet, humble, knowledgeable, because he was all those things, very knowledgeable of cadets. He was very bright, he was a thinker. He was a person who was interested in finding solutions. If you come with a situation, a challenge, he would help you to find a solution to it, you know, and all the while just being very good at his cadetting. And of course his academics too, because he went on to become a Barbados exhibition winner, you know. So Patrick was a lovely person. I don't want to get too emotional, you know, but he was the one who, well, I went on to university at St. Augustine where he was, and it was Patrick who who encouraged me to come to St. Augustine, really. And in my first year at St. Augustine, he was my go-to person. He was the one who, when I want to find out about something, because he was like the only person I really knew at the time, he encouraged me to come, showed me that it was not so difficult to finance my university education at St. Augustine. And he was just, you know, really a really beautiful person.
The late Major Patrick Skeet died on November 12, 2023. After a service of thanksgiving in the Berean Bible Church in Hoddesdale Turning, he was laid to rest in the military cemetery at Gravesend. Major Skeet's legacy lives on today.
Patrick was like Commandant Maynard's right hand. Very intelligent beyond his years and serious, you know. Certainly they would have been very instrumental in igniting that passion for cadetting in us, because they were both exemplars in terms of how they view cadetting. Lieutenant Maynard, he understood that, you know, cadetting, it brought discipline, it brought a lot of positive attitudes and behaviors to persons who are in cadets, as well as it is a learning experience too. And he saw that there was a career path for those who were interested in the military, because quite a number of persons who were in the cadets with us went on to Sandhurst. Lieutenant Jeffrey Bostake, I think he was a corporal when I was in the number 3 company, and he subsequently went on through the Defense Force, and he went to Sandhurst, and they were passionate about their cadetting. Lieutenant Maynard saw the career path that it could afford them, you know, to be good, productive citizens, you know, and that inspired us, the seriousness with which they view cadetting and all the positive, you know, experiences that can come out of cadetting. We saw it. We saw the way they conducted themselves, and you know, their humility too, and the willingness to help us just negotiate and navigate the way, you know. And so they were really very instrumental in lighting that fire in us to be good cadets.
A grateful Marlene Paris looking back and celebrating the extraordinary work that was done by those men in their lives. Angela Lashley too is reflective, and like Marlene, she is honoured to have been touched by the good work of those cadet leaders.
If I think of it in a reflective mode, we've learned discipline. I would have learned how to obey orders. Of course, you learn leadership skills because at one point you're going to be in charge of a certain group of persons and so on. So you learn how to obey, but you also learn how to command.
Pride in how you present yourself, because in the cadet corps you had to be extremely neat. There was always inspection, and if you were not up to par, they would take great pleasure in embarrassing you if those shoes didn't reflect spit and polish, if the brasses in the belt, and as I said, the uniform was different. The brasses in the belt had to be clean and shining. The uniform had to be crisp and starched and seams in. So that sort of emphasis on proper presentation to the public.
Well, they've certainly taught you discipline. You set your course and you follow it no matter what. My son was also a cadet, and we were discussing it the other day, and we were wondering if the other members of our household who are not as disciplined, and we were wondering just the other day if it had anything to do with cadets and the fact that when you're in cadets, this is the program set, and you've determined that you're going to follow it, and you follow it. Doesn't matter what the repercussions are, doesn't matter what the disadvantages are. You know, it's like if you have to go on a diet, you know, the food don't taste good, but you're not eating now for taste. You're eating for sustenance, so you chew and swallow. It's something like that. That's one of the values I found I've got from cadets. There are lots of things I face in my professional life that I don't like. You can't show it, but you just do what you have to do. It becomes ingrained in you. What I know helped me a lot was the ability to deal with, say, difficult judges. I do a lot of litigation. I am in court a lot. And when you start out, you can be quite intimidated by judges. But after facing Colonel Banfield and Colonel Maynard every Friday afternoon, water on the duck's back. You can easily do it, you know. And they shout, so they shout. It doesn't matter. You learn to deal with it. You learn to deal with difficulties in life. For me, that is one of the benefits I have got from being in Cadet Corps. I don't think I would have developed that kind of resilience without it, quite frankly, because it tested you in ways that you didn't expect, and brought out things in you that you probably would not have known were there.
Well, I would say foremost among the values would be things like respect for authority, because there we were in the school where we are senior students in sixth form. But because we have only just joined the Cadet Corps, we have no rank, and we will be encountering third formers or fourth formers who, in the normal scheme of things, they are our juniors. But on Cadet Day, Friday, they are now our superior, and they can give us instructions. So we can't look and say, well, the fourth former that I don't even see during the week. You can't, you know, we have to respect the authority of his position and his rank. And I think that has been a mantra for me, a motto, a philosophy as I matured, went through life, career, and so on, that you have to respect the authority of the office. There's also the whole thing about team, working as a team, understanding that a team is as strong as its weakest link, so that when you are in a team, you have to look out for the other members of the team, and the ones that are weaker than you have to help them. Because I remember when we did the overnight exercise and so on, we as girls, some terrain was really difficult for us to negotiate it. But in order for our platoon to reach our destination, the fellas had to help us, you know, because they can't go along and leave us, you know, man left behind, you know. So you have to be able to work as a team.
beyond that, I think for me, reflecting now, I don't remember any females being in the Defense Force. There weren't any females in the Postal Service. There weren't any female bus drivers. What else? There weren't any female sanitation workers. So that's 5 organizations that we changed without even planning to change them. So all of a sudden, females applied to drive buses. Females applied to the police force and were accepted. Females, we had several outstanding females in the Defense Force. And that would not have happened if 5 girls from Foundation had not decided to break down a little barrier, even though we didn't set out to break down a barrier. But all of those things are the legacy which we would have put in place because of that step to join what was then a male-oriented organization. So, looking back at it, I'm saying, Biden set out to do this. I don't even know when it happened. But then I reflected on it. I said, you know something? I don't think a woman would have got the idea to go and apply to drive a bus, even though there were good drivers, before females, brought down other barriers in other organizations. And for that, I'm happy that we took the chance and we didn't actually, perpetuate the norm and go into the Girl Guide movement or anything like that. And for me personally, I think I'm a more disciplined person. I certainly don't spot out my shoes, but I certainly take great care in cleaning my shoes. And I admire men who have clean, polished shoes. I always find myself looking down at your shoes. I looked at yours when you came in, Miles, and I said, yeah, because that's one of the things, those boys used to polish those shoes, and you could see your face in them. And I like that. My father was the kind of man who he had a Sunday ritual of cleaning off the old polish from his shoes for church with gasoline. I think that's what he used. And then he would polish them. So his shoes were always shining. So when I saw these men with the shoes, I said, that's my dad does that, That part meshed with the cadets for me. And I think the cadet movement has a lot to offer young people if they would get involved in it. The discipline, learning how to carry yourself instead of just moseying on along. Combat cadets really looked the part. They were tidy, they were neat. You never saw any with the hair out of place. They were always well-groomed. And that is part of the legacy, I think, of the cadet movement, which we can carry on. But I think the movement has a lot to offer young people.
I don't see that they can suffer from not joining. And if they don't like it, they don't have to stay. They can drop out if they find the discipline is too harsh or that the going is too rough, because it is a rough and tumble in the sense that you're exposed to so much that is not necessarily delicate. You're going to be dealing with, with rifles. You're going to have to do a lot of walking around. I remember my son, you have to go to camps. My son told me that he walked from, we never did that, they walked the length of Barbados from Paragon, somewhere in St. Lucie, going through all the back roads in Barbados during one summer camp. He enjoyed it. I don't know that other people would necessarily enjoy it, but they might. I would say give it a chance. Major Skeet sent me a photograph, and it was of, I think it was corporals and lance corporals at a special luncheon for them. This is in the 1970s. in the school hall. And it looked to me like about 50 people, all boys, all sharing and enjoying camaraderie. And I don't think anything can beat that. The camaraderie that comes out of cadetting. The boys get close. They do so many things together. They get into trouble together. They learn together. I mean, Joe's boys just used to try to find ways to challenge like the men are. They just used to try to find ways. I remember at camp in Dominica, there was one cadet we would have to go on parade every morning and be inspected. Everything had to be clean. And your hair had to be cut very short. And he thought he was fooling him. He used to brush his hair up and put on his beret. And every morning, oh man, he had it beautifully done. He brushed up and you could hardly see it. And I think he thought he had fooled Colonel Maynard. And this morning in particular, I think we were there, it was about the day 7 of us being there. The Maynard on the parade square ordered that we remove headdress. When he moved his hat, he took off his beret. I mean, all this whole head of hair was on display. That's right. And all Colonel Miller could do was, as usual, go up to him and send him off to parade square to get his hair cut. But he knew, obviously he knew that cadet was playing the fool. So you found ways to challenge authority, safe ways, interesting ways, clever ways. I remember when we were in Dominica, we went to the shooting range, and they had these big rifles there, guns set up for us to shoot. And all the boys were laughing and talking and making jokes and talking about what they're going to do and who they're going to spin around the gun at and all that kind of foolishness. Until the first set went off and used those guns. Of course, they didn't hit the targets, but they hit some of the cliff that was behind, and it gouged out some fairly big holes. I think they were everybody just went silent. We all went silent. And one of them was certain to say, that's what them guns could do. And then bring me down here to shoot them. I didn't think I want to shoot them. Yes, I don't think I want to shoot them. But that camaraderie developed among the boys during that time in Dominica. And I think it follows naturally. I think that is probably what helped with the ethos of Combermere School, and the fact that I think people do not understand why people who've been to Combermere are so loyal to the school and join the Old Scholars and make a lot of noise about the Combermere Old Scholars Association. And I think that's a part of it, the fact that they've developed a camaraderie in school through institutions like the cadets. I mean, you camp at school as well. You camp, I've done weekend camps at Combermere School, and those were great fun. I mean, you have to work during the day, but the boys will always be up to some kind of mischief. And I remember there was one boy that they dared him to streak on cricket grounds, and they gave him a dare to streak around the school, which he accepted. He's streaking all around the school, whooping and cheering. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And he decides that it's time for him to come back up now. But the only way up is the stairs, and at the bottom of the stairs is Colonel Miller, decked off in uniform. He can't come up. He can't come up. And he's at the window. Send out something to let me in. Send out something to let me in. I can't get in. I can't get in. We don't know how Colonel Miller knew that, apart from the fact perhaps that he was making a lot of noise running around the school with no clothes on. But is that so the boys had to put some sheets together and pull him up. So is that kind of, you can't help but develop a feeling of togetherness if you do those things together. I mean, apart from the hard work of cadets, because there's a lot of hard work involved and the responsibility that comes with it, with being a member of the Corps. It develops a camaraderie that I think it lasts throughout your school years.
We had been accustomed to building friendships for nearly 5 or so years with mainly male students in the school. All your best friends were like from first form to fifth form. And now suddenly you were faced with females in the sixth form. And it's interesting to note that it added another dimension to our friendships. As a result of that involvement of the females in sixth form, we now have a lot of friends within the female section of the school. And as a result, we've developed lifelong friendships with these individuals who were actually in the cadet corps at the time, like Margot and Marlene and so on. It is hard to actually do hikes or camp with people without actually becoming very, very good friends, because a large number of your experiences are all wrapped up in those activities. Interesting enough, they're not as much wrapped up in the classroom as they are in the hikes and so on. I'm a teacher and I like to think that teaching is special, but I will tell you that the cadet corps is a lot more powerful in terms of the sort of building of friendships and building of team spirit. Because you're put through some very rigorous training and you have to rely on each other, and that makes you form a bond. There's nothing like sleeping in a camp overseas for like 2 weeks with other people, having to rely on them for safety and for your well-being. And all of the experiences that you talk about when you meet. If you see a number of former cadets come together at any time, they're going to be talking about when they went to Basics Hill in St. Joseph, when they went to the Coast, when they went to Congo Bay, when they went to Dominica, when they went to St. Vincent 1975, St. Lucia 1977, on board the boat, where the boat was rolling and people all felt that somebody almost fell off the boat, and recounting things to you that I don't know if a person can recount the things in the classroom as vividly. Not that the classroom is not important, but I was just saying that the cadets tended to add that character building aspect to it, the teamwork, and all these things that are really vital in society. And that taught me a lot about the need for both boys and girls to be involved in training. We did a bit of a survey with cadets around 2000. We asked the boys what they thought about girls being in the cadet corps. And the boys said that in a tough society, it is important for girls to have the same training as boys, so that they themselves can also become tough. So the boys weren't saying, no, I don't want the girls involved. They're saying, I believe that girls should be tough like boys, because the society is a very tough place to be generally.
Interestingly enough, a series that started with females taking that bold step to enter a male-dominated organization ends with males celebrating their bravery, applauding the strides made, and the legacy that these ladies have now left behind. This has been a fascinating journey. We celebrate Margot Green, Angela Lashley, Marianne Redman, Marlene Paris, and the late Roseanne Gribble. These ladies have written their names on history's page. More importantly, they have laid the foundation and paved the way for many. Well done, ladies. The Vanguard has been unveiled. I'm Miles Eversley.